What is Dia de los Muertos, or Day of the Dead? When some people think of this Mexican holiday, they often think of sugar skull makeup and dressing up. However, this holiday isn't the Mexican equivalent of Halloween, although it can involve yummy treats, makeup, and dressing up. But there's a lot more to know about this special holiday. Dia de los Muertos is a pre-Hispanic tradition. Pre-Hispanic meaning it predates the arrival of the Spanish to the Americas. The Aztec, Toltec, and other Nahua people used it as a way to honor the deceased and death itself. Death was not seen as a separation between loved ones because they believed that life continued on after death. Instead, those who have passed on are believed to still be a part of the community. Over time, these beliefs were incorporated into Christianity as it was adopted in the area, and the holiday now falls on All Saints' Day and All Souls' Day on the Catholic calendar. Some food surrounding this holiday includes pan de muertos, or bread of the dead. It is a traditional sweet bread made around this holiday that is decorated with crossbone skulls and sometimes little tears. Also, sugar skulls, yes, little skulls made out of sugar and decorated. These can be handmade or mass-produced from molds and are also very popular. Atole is a warm drink enjoyed by many during the cold season. Recipes can include milk, masa harina or cornmeal, piloncilla, Mexican brown sugar, cinnamon, and vanilla. Dressing up and skull face paint. The tradition of dressing in fancy dresses and suits and painting oneself in sugar skull makeup has origins in calaveras. The word calavera means skull, and the use of skulls during this holiday is a way to remind everyone that death is inevitable no matter who we are. For hundreds of years, people wrote short, sarcastic tombstone epitaphs called calaveras that poked fun at the living and reminded everyone of their shared humanity, even while humans themselves separated themselves based on trivial things. These poems were personified by political cartoonist Jose Guadalupe Posada, whose cartoons often made fun of those from higher income brackets and stations. Diego Rivera, husband to Frida Kahlo, used this personification in a beautiful mural that resides in Mexico City. His was a fancy skeleton, or Catrina Calavera, meaning elegant skull. From there, the elaborate or simple, jeweled or plain skull makeup and beautiful attire emerged. Ofrendas. Ofrendas are the altars that are made in honor of those who have passed on. They are decorated with bright marigolds to help the deceased find their way back. Additionally, copal incense, which was used anciently as a way to send prayers to the gods, is also burned at these altars. The deceased's favorite drink or food is sometimes left at these altars as well, for their spirits to enjoy as they celebrate with their living loved ones. This holiday is filled with dancing, music, laughter, and food. The flowers, the scents, the color, and the sounds are meant to keep the dead celebrating right alongside the living.
Hi, we're really happy to be here. My name is Janine Hollingshouse. I'm a makeup instructor on BYU campus and a professional makeup artist. I'm also a Canadian who lives in America and love to talk about different holidays from different countries. This is my student.
I'm Astrid Melendez. I'm a theater art studies major with an emphasis in makeup design. I'm from Houston, Texas, but I am Mexican Salvadorian American. And this holiday, Dia de los Muertos, is a holiday that is celebrated across the Latinx diaspora, but it has very strong connections and is most closely associated with Mexico.
We are super excited to be able to share with you just a couple of simple makeup looks that you can do. I'm sure that you're aware, if you look online, that there are many, many tutorials, many really great inspirations for Day of the Dead, sugar skull kind of makeup. I recommend that you look at original sources. Try to find inspiration from Mexican American or Mexican artists who really have sort of a culture connection. You can look at actual sculptures or old paintings, and that will really help you to have some authentic ideas, but it's really fun, and the sky's the limit when it comes to your imagination. But if you're not a professional makeup artist and you have a limited budget and it can be really hard for you to get all of the fancy tools, we're going to show you some ideas on how to do some simple sugar skull makeup that you might like. Okay, there are three general types of sugar skull looks that you'll see when you're doing your research. The first is just a very simple skull. And a lot of times if you're looking at paintings and other people who celebrate this, they really like that sort of basic skull look, and then they'll add their fancy clothing. And that really sort of helps bring out just the fact that there is that death that's really obvious. And so that's a really simple look. The second kind is a half face makeup. So that means that whether or not you're doing a simple skull or a fancier kind of makeup, that you're only doing half your face. And a lot of the reason why people love to do this is because it really shows that juxtaposition between life on one side and death on the other, which is part of the celebration of this holiday, is to bring the living and the dead together. The third kind is a fancy skull or a glamorous skull. It's called a Katrina skull. I don't think I'm saying that right.
It's very close.
Okay. But it's just that glamorous, and you're going to see a lot of things on Pinterest or YouTube that show this kind of makeup. And again, that can be full face or half face, depending on which one you're going to do. So those are the three basic kinds of sugar skull makeup that you'll see. Great. Okay, so I'm going to start doing a makeup, and actually I'm going to show you a half and half face on Astrid. One is going to be a simple skull, and then we'll do more of a Katrina or a glamorous skull on the other side. So I'm going to put my shield on. She's going to take her mask off. And she's already cleaned her face and prepped it with moisturizer. So anytime you're going to do makeup, you want to make sure that you have a clean face. So you start with a really good foundation of nothing on your face unless it's just a little bit of moisturizer. That helps the makeup not irritate your skin. So for those of you out there who don't maybe have a lot of supplies, we're going to do just a very simple skull look. And all you need is some eyeliner. I have a couple of different black eyeliner pencils. These are not expensive. You could get these anywhere. And I have an eyeshadow palette. This one has a lot of colors, but whatever you've got will work. So it doesn't really matter. It doesn't have to be. I kind of like these ones because they're matte, which means they don't have a lot of glitter or sparkle. But if that's all you have is glitter and sparkle, that works too. So just do something that's really easy. So actually what I'm going to do is just take my eyeliner pencil, and I'm going to start outlining the shape that I want to do for this skull. So the very first thing that I'm going to do is just come in and decide, where do I want that eye shape to kind of be as far as the skull? And I'm kind of following her eyebrow line and bringing that up into her eye. If you're nervous about it, just do small little dots before you connect the line. I'm going to kind of bring this up because I want it to have, and the shape doesn't really matter, it's up to you. You can look at a photo and decide. So I'm going to kind of just fill this in a little bit with this eyebrow pencil, starting to get a really good idea. There's this one right here where I kind of went a little low, so I'm going to fix that with this line and bring this in. That looks really great. Okay, then I'm going to do her nose. I want to make sure that I get that skull kind of shape. And the best way to think about that is just like an upside down heart. So you will see sometimes that they'll do a split on the top of the nose, but to keep it simple, it's just really nice if you just start and do an upside down heart. So I'm just going to make a little mark at the top of her nose and the bottom and kind of just give myself something that I can use to fill in. So I'm just going to take that black eyeliner pencil and fill in. I'm just going to work back and forth between her eye I'm going to have you close your eye. I'm just pulling down on her cheek a little bit just so that the skin gets a little bit taut. And that can help you sometimes if you're trying to draw on a place where it's got a little bit more movement so that you can kind of get where it's going. And don't worry too much about it being really opaque, meaning like solidly filled in. You're just kind of trying to find that basic shape that you want. There is a little bit of art to it, but the more that you practice, the more that you're going to get better at it, and of course it wipes off. So that's one of the great things about doing this, is that you can always just fix it. If you have a little bit of a line that you don't like, I have a little baby wipe here. So I can just take that with my finger. If I say, oh, it came over a little bit too far right there, and I can just wipe that right off. So it's just a really easy way to kind of clean up something if you're like, oh, I don't love what I did right there. So I'm just coming in. Okay, the next thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to take a little eyeshadow brush that looks like this, but you could could use a Q-tip or even your finger or something like that that helps to kind of blend that. So I'm just going to take this and come in here and just kind of help smudge that pencil that I put in into kind of a solid color. So you can see how it's kind of starting to blend. And depending on the kind of eyeliner pencil, if you're looking to purchase one, you might want to find one that's going to be a little bit creamier. That's going to allow you to kind of smudge it a little bit and fill in. I'm going to come like that. Okay, so I'm going to take that same brush that I used that has a little black on it. I'm going to add just a little bit of eyeshadow. That's going to help fill in that depth. And again, like I said, you can use any color that you want. If you have black, use black. If you don't, like this palette doesn't have a black in here, I'm going to come in with just this really nice dark blue. And then I'm just going to sweep over what I've already done. And it's just going to kind of fill in any spots that I didn't feel like the pencil filled in. And now, of course, when you're doing the pencil, you can take the time to very carefully fill that in with the pencil, and that works too. So this gives this kind of blue cast, which is kind of fun. And we'll take that here like this. Take that same color in here. Okay, I'm going to take this same eyeshadow and I'm going to just kind of bring in a little bit of shadowing. And this is where I want to think about, what does a skull look like? What's the shape of a skull? And so you can feel like you know that this is where a bone is, this is where a bone is. So anything that's underneath the bones is going to sink in, and you want to kind of shadow that, so that you can say, oh, this is where my skull is going to start to pull out. So I'm going to do that there. And I'm going to come in here and do a little bit around her temple, right into her hairline, where that skull would be. Darken in here, in the eye socket. Nose a little bit more. You can even come down here if you want and just give a little bit on her neck and around her jaw. That kind of helps to just shadow that. Really easy, really simple, and you've got this really fun thing. And of course, you could take the time to go in. You know, if I say, oh, I don't love this, I'm going to sharpen this little edge up. I need to come in her eyebrow a little bit more. Whatever you think that you need to do to kind of fix it up, but that's just that one eyeliner pencil that's helping you fix that edge. Okay, now at this point I want to do her mouth and finish that sort of skull look. So I'm going to take my eyeliner pencil and I'm just going to extend her smile just a little bit, so that she can kind of see. And you can decide how far you want that to go. You can bring that in a little bit. And then I'm going to come in and do some sort of stylized teeth on her. So I'm going to take her lip and I'm going to just bring in a line right in the middle. And I'm just doing it to the edge of her lip. And I'm kind of fanning it out. I'm going to have you open your mouth just a little bit. I can kind of bring this in. And once I get here, make this match up, then I'm going to come on the top and bring it down to the edge of the lip. So I'm going to come here. And this one I'm actually going to come straight. So it kind of brings this, it gives it a little bit of a stylized edge. I feel like we need one more right there. Okay. Then I'm going to bring this and this. And I'm going to actually make them kind of go smaller as they get to the end. Then I'm going to do the same thing on the bottom. Bring this down. Bring this over. I'm going to pull down on your lip a little bit. And bring this over. And drop that. That's it. Very simple, really easy. You can add whatever details you want. You can use whatever your color you want. But that's a really, really quick way just to do a simple skull, sugar skull look. Hi, okay, now we're going to move on and I'm going to show you the second half of Astrid's face with something just using a little bit more makeup quality products if you're interested. These aren't super expensive, but the best product to use if you're going to do any kind of face painting, but especially sugar skulls, is a cake makeup. And they kind of look like this. These are large pots. You don't need to buy something like that. In fact, I was at Target the other day and they had a cute little Halloween kit over where their Halloween costumes were with 5 colors, and they were little tiny cake makeup. But how do you know it's cake? It's water activated. And that's when you're looking on those kinds of makeup, but I've seen them also at Michael's or Hobby Lobby. Of course, Amazon has water activated makeup or cake makeup. And you only need a couple of colors if you're thinking about. The first color that I'm going to use is white. So when you're looking at a cake makeup, it's solid and it's going to activate, some people will say kind of like a watercolor, but if you do watercolor, it is a little different because you want to make it really creamy. So I have a little dish of water here. It doesn't need to be any fancy water. And I have a couple of art sponges. So they come like this in a circle. You can buy these, again, any art place, Joann's, Michael's, Hobby Lobby, online. And I just cut them in half with scissors. So I'm going to take, which one do I want to use? This one. So I'm just going to dip one end of the sponge in water. And then I'm going to just start working it down into the cake. So you can see it's starting to pick up. And I'm just going to keep dipping. Oh, drip on my pants. Keep dipping until it starts getting really creamy. Now you don't want it too watery because then it will be really drippy and streaky. So you don't want that. You really just want it nice and creamy. So I'm just going to kind of keep working. And then I'm going to come in, I'm going to do the base layer on Astrid's face. So I'm just going to come in and I'm going to kind of start tapping this white. We're going to create our skull. I'm tapping and tapping. Now this makeup, it does dry quickly. So you kind of want to work relatively fast. Now I'm using this dry end to kind of blend. And I'm just going to keep tapping. And I want to kind of, I'm not going to do around her eye because that's where I know I'm going to put the black. You typically want to work from light to dark when you're doing these kinds of makeups because that helps you to kind of blend over. And it's easier to fix if you're doing mistakes. I'm going to try to match up to what I already did without ruining it. But again, I'm just using the wet side to add makeup and the dry side to tap it down in. And it doesn't have to be perfect. Okay, I'm just taking a baby wipe and cleaning off any makeup that's on my hands. And that's just a little tip because as you're going, you don't want to touch down and transfer some color over to something else. So I'm just going to do that. Now, I am going to move to a dry makeup. So you want to make sure that this base layer is all the way dry before you start adding on anything else. That's important because otherwise it'll start to streak or move, but it doesn't take long. So you can do a little fan if you need, and you can always just test it to make sure that it's dry. take my eyeshadow palette now, and I'm going to just add a little bit of fun shadow, and because some of the other colors we're going to do are orange and red, I'm going to use a little blue. So we're going to come in and just do a little bit. I'm going to use a little bit of a bright blue. So I just have this regular eyeshadow palette like we were talking before. Anything that you have will work. A little powder. So I'm going to start on the perimeter at the edge of her hair, and then I'm just going to start to kind of bring this in. And I'm building that same sort of shadowing that we did before on the other side to give it a little bit of a skull shape. And you can make it as dark as you want. I like to use a couple of different colors because that gives it a little bit more depth. So I'm adding my darker color kind of at the back near the edge and then sweeping it down like blue blush. That's what you're getting, Astrid.
I love that. Thank you.
Great. And I'm going to do the same thing right in here around her temple. Sweep that in and around just to give her some shaping. I'm going to just bring that, any of the blue that I kind of have on my brush, just create some nice little shadows. That kind of helps to give depth to your look, add some nice detail and dimension. I'm going to come in and just do a little bit on her lips. Some down here on her chin. We're going to add some stuff down here. Come along here along her jaw. And maybe just a little bit up here on her forehead. I really like this, kind of gives depth to the white. And again, I'm using blue. You don't have to use blue. You could do any color you want. You could do gray, you could do black if you really want to make it that kind of skull look. Whatever you think looks nice. Okay. Nice. Okay, the next thing that I'm going to do is I want to start painting a design around her eye. You'll see that a lot when you're doing these colorful Katrina kind of makeup. And I'm going to do yellow and red like marigolds. We think that that's going to be really fun and traditional. I think that'd be really good. So I'm actually going to take my brush, and the brush I'm using it's just an art brush, and it's just a filbert, if you know what a filbert is. If not, it's just a flat, it's got kind of a round top, and it's just a flat paintbrush. And again, it does not need to be expensive. It can be any brush that you have at home. If you don't have a brush, you can use a Q-tip. Q-tips work great for making nice little flower petals. So I'm just going to dip my brush in this water. Okay, now I've got a really full paintbrush of yellow. So I'm going to change that color with my same paintbrush. I'm actually just going to come in. I'm going to barely add a little water to the tip. And I'm just going to start rubbing into my red. And I'm just going to keep rubbing. And you can see I'm starting to pick up red paint just on the tip. And as soon as I feel like I have enough, and I'm going to come in and I'm going to start making my little petals, just like that. So I'm going to touch down. Eyes closed for me. And I'm just pressing them right next to each other, making these nice little marigold colored petals around her eye. That's it. Great. So now I kind of have that outline of my marigold shape around her eye. Okay, so I'm going to come in and do that again because I want to add a couple of different places. So I'm going to get my same colors. And you can notice that the color mix, you can really push that away. If you're worried about it, you can use a different brush or a different Q-tip. But I'm just going to build that again. There's my yellow. Take a tiny little bit and add that red to the tip. You could do these with any two colors. It's just like a little trick, a little tip. Makes it easier to do those kinds of. I think we should add a little flower to her chin too. So I'm going to just come in here and add. And I'm going to extend this down. I'm just using my brush with its multiple colors because it has that red on the end. Then I can get a little bit of double color coming up in there. The details that people add, should we add something to your forehead? Maybe we'll do one right here too. That's really part of the fun of this makeup is figuring out what kind of details you want to add. These are supposed to look glamorous and fun, but you'll notice that people also put spider webs or hearts, people put tears, they do all sorts of really fun shapes. So flowers are just a very nice traditional kind of thing to do. Okay, now we started that in. I'm going to add the black now. And so this is where I got kind of this base layer in. So I'm going to take my brush and again, I'm going to use a black cake. Similar kind of makeup. So I have a different brush that I'm going to use and I'm going to dip into that water. And it's the same process for building up the color. For that nice creamy texture, nothing too drippy, nothing too dry. I'm kind of turning my brush as I do it. I'm flipping it on both sides and getting the edges so I can make sure that the whole brush is full of paint. That's going to really help me. Now this is a thicker brush, so I'm just going to do the big areas and then I'm going to move to a smaller brush to do the details. So I'm going to have her close her eye just gently and I'm going to come in here and I'm going to start painting in that black. Now I'm going to come right up to the edge of my flower and I can paint over just the edge that I did and start incorporating that into the black. Now, you don't have to use black. One of the great things about these Katrina looks or glamour looks is that you can do any color. So you'll see pink and red and purple and gold, and it's really up to you. Sky's the limit. Okay, I'm going to re-dip. My brush got a little dry. I'm going to just match what I've already done. You can see that the cake is a little more opaque. The color's a little bit easier. So I'm going to kind of build that shape and paint in. And again, if this brush is too big, like it's starting to get a little big for me, just to kind of get the edges. So I'm going to just wait and fix that with my smaller brush. Okay, let's see. Open your eye for me, nice and easy. How's that feel?
Good.
Does it feel okay? I'm going to come in just underneath and kind of clean up. So look up for me, and I'm just going to come in here. Now, you can do eyeliner on your eye first, if that makes it easier. You don't want to get this cake makeup in your eye. If you do get it in your eye, it's not going to hurt you. It's water-based, but it's not pleasant. So if you're worried about it getting too close, you can do a little eyeliner first, and that helps. Something that's a little bit smaller, because that's going to allow me to have a little more control when I'm doing some of these detail lines. It's just a tiny little art brush, which you can get any art place. I am twisting it into the paint to help pick up the color and get it all the way. You'll notice that it comes all the way up to the top. And I want that.
Stop, let's just get a close-up of you doing that. Okay, 3, 2, 1. Perfect, okay.
Right.
Alrighty. Okay, 3, 2, 1.
Great. So now I'm going to come in, and this is where you can take as much time as you want, really sort of helping make sure that your edges are as beautiful as you want. I'm going to just come in here and clean up any edge that I feel like I want to be a little cleaner. Come on her nose. I'll have you just turn towards me for just a second. Tilt down. I kind of want to have that. I'm going to give her a little detail under her nose. Okay, I'm going to come in here. You can just see some of these, and this is, of course, totally up to you. Whatever you want to do. I'm going to add a little dot. You could add glitter. People glue sequins on with eyelash glue. Come in here. I'm going to just come in here and do a little bit of outlining. Just using the tip of the brush. start to just add a little detail to my flowers up here. And you can decide what kind of details you want to add. We'll do a little down here as well. And like I said, I'm kind of keeping it all one kind of look, but you can do whatever. Maybe you want to have hearts. And I'm just adding some little swirls that I think are really fun. I'm just using the edge of my brush. All right, I'm going to move to her mouth. I'm going to use that same tiny brush, and I'm just mixing in. And I'm going to come along. Now, this where I want to make sure that the cake doesn't get away from me, so I'm going to kind of come in a little thinner than I thought. Now, I like these swirls, so I'm going to add a little swirl on the end. And then I'm going to paint in. Have your mouth closed for me. Actually, just slightly open. Yeah. And I'm going to come in here like this. And I'm going to do my lines. And then I'm going to take and just do some out here. And that's really, you can come in and do them a lot darker. Some of these probably need to be just a little more. Yeah. And then you can decide any other little detail kinds of things that you want to do. We could add swirls all over. Like I said, you could do it in blue. You could add hearts or tears or any of that kind of thing. But that's just a real basic, simple kind of idea with just a few colors that you could do that gives you a little bit more of a glamorous look. Now, we could put false eyelashes on. We could have made this all blue and glittery, whatever you feel like.
Great. Okay, Astrid, let's just have you stand up.
Okay.
Dress up. And a lot of people like to add their fancy clothing or other kinds of things, any kind of flowers. We have this headband here that Astrid's going to put on, and you can make something like this really easy. Just get a little headband, you can glue flowers to it in favorite colors. So we're going to have Astrid put that on, and that's going to complete that look. She's going to have that, yeah. We'll tuck that and bring it a little bit closer. So it's like a crown of flowers because we're honoring our ancestors and honoring the people we love.
First, ask yourself some questions. Why do you want to celebrate this holiday? Do you have a cultural connection to the holiday? Do you want to celebrate Mexican culture? Do you want to celebrate the meaning behind the holiday? Are you just borrowing or appropriating fun pieces of someone else's cultural holiday without understanding what it really is? If you have a cultural connection, don't be afraid to celebrate your culture, even if you live somewhere new. Invite your friends and neighbors to celebrate with you and teach them why you celebrate. If you want to celebrate Mexican culture, make sure you understand more about the culture than just this holiday. Ask your Latinx friends and neighbors if they mind if you celebrate and help you stay authentic and respectful. Ask yourself why you want to participate and if you're involving yourself in other issues that affect the Latinx community. If you want to celebrate the meaning behind the holiday, Think of ways that you can celebrate the lives of your own ancestors or try to make the dead feel alive in your life. How are you participating in family history work for your own ancestors? If you want to celebrate the meaning behind the holiday, think of ways that you can celebrate the lives of your own ancestors or try to make the dead feel alive in your own life. Ask yourself, how am I participating in family history work for my own ancestors? Perhaps you can read stories or dress up like your own ancestors, eat their favorite foods, listen to their favorite music, etc. Ask yourself, what are ways that I can honor my loved ones who have passed on during this holiday in ways that would be meaningful to them? If you think it's fun and want to borrow it, this is called appropriating and can be very offensive to people who hold their culture and traditions sacred or with deep feeling. Sugar skull makeup is not a Halloween costume. Across the Mexican and Latinx diaspora in which this holiday is celebrated, there will be varying answers on when it is appropriate to wear this attire and when it is not.